The Japanese Inunaki Tunnel, legend, Japan. There is a place in Japan where the laws of the world are said to no longer apply. A place where screaming into the darkness might not echo back, but answer. A tunnel so feared that even locals refused to speak of it after sunset, and those who ignored the warnings. Some were found, others were never seen again. This is the legend of the Inunaki Tunnel. Introduction. Setting the tone. Hidden deep within the forested mountains of Fukuoka Prefecture lies one of the most infamous urban legends in modern Japanese folklore. The Inunaki Tunnel, an abandoned passage swallowed by nature and myth, has become a symbol of something darker than just decay. Unlike many ghost stories, this one blurs the line between folklore and reality, because the Inunaki Tunnel is not just a story, it is a real place, and its history is far more disturbing than fiction. Origins of the legend. The name Inunaki translates loosely to the barking dog. It originates from an old legend tied to the nearby Inunaki village, a settlement said to have vanished under mysterious circumstances. According to local lore, a notice once stood at the entrance of the village. The laws of Japan do not apply here. Whether this sign ever truly existed remains debated, but the legend it spawned would spread across the country, and eventually, the world. The tunnel itself was constructed decades ago as part of a mountain road system. But after a newer route was built, the old tunnel was abandoned, left to rot in silence. And that silence did not last long. The first stories. Travelers began reporting strange experiences. Vehicles stalling without reason, shadows moving where there should be none, and the overwhelming sensation of being watched. Some claimed to hear footsteps echoing behind them, even when they were alone. Others described distant cries, human but distorted, carried through the tunnel by no visible source. At first, these accounts were dismissed as imagination, until something happened that changed everything. Real incident, dark history. In the late 1980s, a brutal crime occurred near the area, one that would permanently stain the tunnel's reputation. A young man was kidnapped, tortured, and murdered by a group of individuals. His body was later discovered burned near the site. This was not folklore. This was real. And from that moment on, the tunnel was no longer just abandoned. It was cursed. The tunnel itself. The Inunaki Tunnel is narrow, claustrophobic, suffocating. Its walls are damp and stained, its structure unstable. Graffiti covers much of its interior, messages left by thrill-seekers, vandals, and perhaps something else. The air inside feels different, heavier, thicker, as if the tunnel itself resents intrusion. There are no lights, no signs, no indication that anyone should be there at all. And yet, people keep going. The rules. Urban legend grows. Over time, a set of rules began circulating online. Instructions for those daring enough to visit. Go at night. Turn off your headlights before entering. Do not stop inside the tunnel. Do not respond if something calls your name. And above all, do not look behind you. These rules spread across forums and social media, turning the tunnel into a rite of passage for thrill seekers. But not everyone returned with just a story. Paranormal claims. Visitors have reported seeing figures standing at the far end of the tunnel, only for them to vanish when approached. Others claim to have encountered people inside, silent, motionless, who disappear the moment they are acknowledged. Some recordings captured within the tunnel contain unexplained sounds, whispers layered beneath static, footsteps with no visible source, and in some cases, distorted laughter. One of the most chilling reports describes a driver who entered the tunnel alone, only to see someone sitting in the passenger seat when they exited. The deeper one travels into the legend, the more it begins to shift. Because at some point, it stops feeling like a story. It begins to feel like a warning. If you're enjoying this deep dive into real-world horror, make sure to subscribe and stay with the channel, because the deeper we go, the darker these stories become. The other tunnel. Adding to the mystery is the existence of not one, but two tunnels. A newer tunnel now serves the main road. It is safe, lit, and frequently used. But the old tunnel, the one tied to the legend, still exists, hidden and largely forgotten. Locals know the difference. Visitors often do not. And those who find the wrong tunnel sometimes realize it too late. Disappearances and fear. There are no officially documented disappearances directly linked to the tunnel, but unofficial accounts tell a different story. Stories of people who ventured in and never returned, of abandoned cars found nearby with doors left open, of personal belongings scattered with no explanation. Whether these are exaggerations or something more, no one can say for certain. But the fear they inspire is very real. The psychological effect. Even skeptics who visit the tunnel often report a sense of unease, a feeling that intensifies the longer they remain. Time seems to distort, sounds become amplified, the darkness feels almost alive. Some researchers believe this could be due to environmental factors, low light, confined space, and suggestibility. But others argue that the consistency of these experiences suggests something more, something that cannot be easily explained. Modern Internet legend. In the age of the Internet, the Inunaki Tunnel has taken on a new life. Videos, live streams, and challenge explorations have drawn countless people to the site. Many go seeking thrills, some go seeking proof, and a few go seeking something they cannot quite name. Not all of them find what they expect. The line between myth and reality. What makes the Inunaki Tunnel so compelling is not just its story, but its ambiguity. It is rooted in real events, anchored to a real place, yet surrounded by layers of myth that continue to grow. It exists in that unsettling space between what is known and what is feared. The final warnings. Locals rarely speak about the tunnel openly, and when they do, it is often with caution. Not because they fully believe the legend, but because they cannot fully dismiss it either. Some places carry a weight that cannot be measured, and some stories refuse to fade. Final build, approaching end. Imagine standing at the entrance of the tunnel. No lights, no sound, just darkness stretching endlessly ahead. Would you step inside, or would you walk away, knowing that some mysteries are better left untouched? If this story left you questioning what's real and what isn't, share this video and let others decide for themselves. And if you want more true stories that blur the line between legend and reality, stay subscribed, because there's much more to uncover. Ending haunting close. The Inunaki Tunnel still stands today, silent, unchanged, waiting. Whether it is haunted by spirits or by the darkness of human history, one thing is certain: those who enter it never leave unchanged, and some never leave at all.